I think something called VAN, V-A-N.
Welcome, and thank you all for joining KHA's webinar on PPE. We see that a few people are still joining this Zoom call, so we're going to give it just a minute. But now's a great time to make sure your line is muted. If you have to step away from this webinar, please don't put the call on hold so that we don't hear the lovely background music. But we're going to get started any minute. And I see that it's right at 11 a.m. And I don't have my speaker on the phone yet, but I'm sure he is going to arrive any minute. But I will probably go ahead and get started. On behalf of the Kentucky Hospital Association, I want to welcome you to today's webinar. My name is Pam Kirchhoff, and I'm the Director of Hospital Services for KHA Solutions Group. I want to thank you all for participating in this webinar and discussion. Also, joining us any minute will be JT Garwood with PPE Exchange. And I'm also happy to have Ashley Peterson with KHA on the line. She's going to be recording the webinar for us, and she's also going to alert us if we have any questions in the chat room. Today, we're talking about a new way of sourcing personal protective equipment, PPE and supplies. We've all seen the disruptions that COVID-19 has created, and the supply chain is no exception. At the beginning of the pandemic, hospitals, providers, retailers, they were all struggling to source PPE and the disinfecting supplies necessary to maintain those operations. We heard that to keep adequate supplies of PPE on hand, providers, like yourself, operating with lean budgets, were having to make fast buying decisions. Sometimes this meant bypassing their typical vendor vetting process. In many cases, it worked out, but some hospitals had to pay extreme and inflated prices. We had one hospital system report to us that they had a 300% markup, and I'm sure you all have familiar stories. In addition, some vendors are delivering inferior quality products, which we know can put the health and safety of our patients and our staff at risk. So to combat these issues, KHA collaborated with other state hospital associations to vet PPE Exchange, an online marketplace of regional and national supplies of PPE. Via PPE Exchange, hospitals, providers, businesses looking for supplies are virtually connected to a marketplace of verified suppliers where you can search for items, schedule orders, compare prices, and even complete the transaction online. So I know for you that probably sounds a bit like Amazon, and that's what I think of when I think of PPE Exchange. Again, you can search for items, schedule orders, compare prices, and complete that transaction online. So we know this is a new way of thinking about sourcing and ordering supplies, and with that, we're pleased to bring you this discussion. In a minute, JT Garwood will walk you through the process and answer your questions. And before I introduce the speaker, I have just a few housekeeping items. We're going to encourage discussion, and we think it's going to be best to hold those questions to the end when we unmute everyone's lines. And it sounds like some of the lines might not be muted. You could check that. And also, when the question time comes, you can type those questions into the chat box, and we're going to be sure to get to those. So we promise to end by noon, if not sooner. So with that, I'm going to introduce our speaker, JT Garwood. He's been working with hospitals and associations across the country since this pandemic struck our nation. They were able to create a new technology built on a blockchain to better enable sourcing of PPE and other supplies. Essentially, again, they created an Amazon-like marketplace for PPE and supplies that includes the opportunity to leverage group buys, and we're going to talk about that. JT is one of the co-founders of PPE Exchange, and he's going to present the benefits of sourcing supplies on their platform. And their platform, again, is there to bring order and fair pricing to the PPE purchasing chaos that the industry is currently experiencing. Then we're going to talk about the results of the KHA PPE survey. Many of you responded to that survey, and we were able to identify some of the PPE needs that you have and maybe still have. And JT is going to discuss a Kentucky group buy, so stay tuned for that. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to JT Garwood, and I see that we have his slide deck already up.
Yes, we do. And Pam, can you hear me all right?
Yes.
All right, fantastic. Well, thank you so much for that introduction and the kind words. Kentucky members and the rest of the team, thank you so much for hosting me this morning. I really appreciate everybody's time, and we'll make sure to make good use of it. So like Pam said, my name is JT Garwood. I'm one of the co-founders at PPE Exchange. I have a background working in the technology space, most recently at Microsoft. Another co-founder was also from Microsoft, building cloud applications. Then another was with RSM, a consulting company leading their blockchain division. But really, before I go into more background, I want to talk a little bit about how we all are in this room today. And it's about how we partnered together with hospital associations. So as you guys very much well know, hospital associations have a partnership background and a purchasing collaborative process. And so that's something that we wanted to take full advantage of and get right in the middle of. We have now successfully today partnered publicly with Kentucky included 12 hospital associations across the US and are in conversations with about 20 more. So the hopes is that we are going to be partnered with every hospital association in the US, as well as nursing, senior living, other types of healthcare associations in any way, shape, or form. And that's because the associations have access to the people that we want to use our platform, which is everyone here on this call. So we've done group buys, we've done PPE direct with hospitals within states. You name it, we've been able to partner really successfully with the hospital association. And really what they saw, the advantage of PPE Exchange is that we are able to have our group order functionality. So at the start of COVID, as I'm sure you guys are well aware of, organizations were trying to join together to meet the higher MOQs or minimum order quantities that were now set by the industry. And that is something that we really tackle at PPE Exchange, and we aggregate purchase orders on the back end to make one payment for other PPE on the front end. And the second is that we're a payment platform. So with that whole group order process, there was a situation where some hospital, some association had to put up the majority of the dollars to get that order moving, and then they would accept credit. What's the situation? How does it work out? We're providing that payment platform now to add to that gaps in the process. We're completely flexible. We're a lean, agile team. We're going to meet you guys where you are. If you see this presentation and say, JT, 9 things out of 10, I really enjoyed about this, but I'm kind of leaning away from that. That's completely fine. We're going to meet you where you are. And we're not reinventing the wheel. This isn't a new process. We're not asking you to do more things. We're just trying to add a little bit of trust and transparency to the whole entire process. And this goes back to our origin. And our origin is, the 3 of us were all working in technology, and we had friends and family working in the rural hospital space. We started to hear the horror stories about what was happening with PPE procurement, whether it was the price gouging or the rampant fraud, or just, the reusing of PPE and, all the things that we all started to hear about on the news every morning. And for us, through our families. And so we said, this seems like a good opportunity where we can add technology and to add some trust and verification to the process. So which created our mission, which is to utilize next generation technology to provide a transparent, efficient, and trusted digital marketplace, facilitating the procurement process of B2B transactions. So that's all good and fun, but what that really means is we're using advanced technologies on the back end to provide an extremely user-friendly, practical, and convenient experience for PPE purchasing for all of you. And one thing I like to do on all of these presentations is go through why you'd want to be a buyer on PPE Exchange, as well as why a seller would want to list as a vendor on PPE Exchange. So I have 2 slides just going over the high level points of each of those before I get into how to really use our site. The first one is that we have a large selection of PPE and suppliers. What I found is that each state I talk to usually has between 1 to 7, if you are a manufacturing hub or you're a shipping hub like the Carolinas or California or Florida, that number might be higher. But usually it's about 1 to 7 PPE suppliers that are providing PPE to the hospitals within the state. And so what we're doing is we're grabbing all of those vendors from each state and now giving you access to the top versions of that. So we go through and verify them. We sort, we say, where are you price competitive? And then they are now listed on our site. We have over 1,400 PPE vendors that are signed up on our platform. We are verifying those every day. Takes up a lot of time, but we're adding new barriers to entry and making sure that it's really a curated process for the best form of PPE. The second is that we deal with large order quote requests. And this is just to call out that, the hospital associations, what really took off was the group order functionality. But I'm on calls with large hospitals and, large groups every day. And they say, yeah, JT, that's great. I'm sure the group order is great for the smaller people, but I'm really having no trouble procuring PPE. And I challenge that and I say, hey, that's great. So we have this feature that you can now type in what you're looking for, an RFP request of sorts. And we usually have between 20 and 50 vendors respond to that RFP. So what we're trying to do is let you know that our network of vendors is always willing to try to beat the prices that you're getting on every single PPE product that you have. So instead of driving the price up, we're constantly trying to drive the price down. The next big thing that we focus on is transparent pricing. So obviously the nature of a marketplace is to focus on transparency of pricing because you can always compare against listings. Nobody wants to be the highest placed item at the farmer's market. So we try to make sure that when people join the site, they're checking out other listings before they list their site. We usually actually see a 15% price reduction between catalog to listing when people join our site, when sellers join our site, because they are starting to compare themselves against the other vendors, and we really see a great price decrease because they're listed against other competitive prices. We have a focus on fraud prevention. So we're verifying regulatory compliance to ensure that no orders are manipulated. We're doing that in a number of ways, but this point really rides on our blockchain technology, which I'll get into our verification process in a bit. But we're constantly trying to make sure that we're protecting against fraud and protecting the buyer. And one way that we do that is we have an escrow release system that is set based on custom payment terms per item. So if you logged on to PPE Exchange today, you'd see a mixture of items that are either 100% up front, 50% down, 50 on delivery, 30% down, 70% on delivery, 100% on delivery. We have a huge mixture of products, and we leave it up to the seller to say, hey, tell us your demand. If someone's buying 100 boxes and you need 100 boxes of gloves and you need that payment up front, that's okay with us. For large production orders, what else are we going to see? So we're constantly adding to that process to do more things to protect the buyer in these PPE transactions. We're working on order tracking. So the idea is that we are eventually going to get to the point, like an Amazon or a UPS transaction, that you can track your PPE basically throughout its entire order life cycle. Today, I think the best way that you can track your PPE is if you call your broker and hopefully they answer. Outside of that, you're really left out to dry. So PPE Exchange creates a single pane of glass for you to log in where the seller will update your shipment with major shipping updates. Also group pricing. Like I said, hospital associations, this has really caught on. But what we're doing is we're coordinating complex group orders in under 10 clicks, and we'll see that later with the Kentucky group order. So then this is our seller opportunities. So sellers have a lot of reasons to join PPE Exchange. One is what I mentioned, they have those custom payment terms. So, if they want to list a high demand product, they can and change the terms for that, or, one that is more common on the marketplace. Whatever they're comfortable with, we set on PPE Exchange. Just like they're being, you're being exposed to them, they're being exposed to you. The PPE industry is a very regional market. Each state even has a dominant player for each one. And so what we're doing is we're connecting them with a nationwide market of buyers to hopefully kind of even out the areas of focus across the US and have even distribution throughout all of our vendors. They also have the option to choose their customers. So we like to tell them, hey, decide what's best for your business. PPE Exchange is built on a blockchain, which means that each side has to verify the transaction as it progresses along as a smart contract. So upon placing an order, it's non-binding, and the seller has to accept or reject the order upon that order being set. So if at any point they say, hey, this is shipping to Alaska, I can't do that, or that many products doesn't make sense for me, they can always reject the order. But we don't see a lot of rejections on the site, but they do have that option when joining. Ease of purchase. So it's just as easy it is to buy, it's easy to sell PPE in under 10 clicks. And the most important part is that we're curating a high quality marketplace of B2B buyers. And what I mean by that is that, we have just over 650 hospitals, healthcare, corporations, anybody with a, PPE need buying PPE daily on PPE Exchange. And we're doing that by verifying the organizations that the buyers are coming from. So it's not your mom and pop that are going to log in and buy 10 boxes of gloves. This is really all about B2B buys. So if you're a hospital, you're on PPE Exchange. If you're a nursing home, if you're a corporation that's frontline workers, different things like that, government agencies, you will be someone that's shopping on PPE Exchange, not just a consumer site. And the next is a digital storefront. So what happened at the start of COVID was that all these organizations, once they realized the business opportunity to sell PPE, started to try to spin up these online stores. So they went out and hired web developers. They hired graphic designers. They tried to list their sites. They tried to deal with, how to deal with fluctuating inventory on their sites. And we say we're going to take care of all of that for you and just give you access to a pre-built digital storefront where all you have to do is upload your product listings, your verification documents, and some more information on your site. And then you can also have a payment platform built in and be access to our network of buyers. So we give our sellers really a lot of opportunities on our site, and it's a great part of being a part of PPE Exchange. So what I'm going to touch on really quickly is just our supplier verification process. And this is a really simplified version of it, but there should actually be kind of like a pre-step one in this situation, because 95% of all organizations that are listed on PPE Exchange came to us through other hospital association recommendations, meaning that 95% of the people on PPE Exchange are a reference. And before this even initial screening call, they have to fill out a litany of information on a form, and that's their tax ID, their DUNS, if they plan on listing FDA products, if so, what are the FDA numbers, their website, their revenues, what areas they focus in. And then based on that survey results, if we're comfortable, we'll do an initial screening call. This initial screening call is the opportunity for our team to get to understand their business. Questions on that call include, hey, tell me about your shipping. Are you guys doing landed or production inventory? What's your relationship with your manufacturers? Are you a registered distributor? If so, with who? And we really get to poke at and see, where their business is coming from. If all goes well on that call, we'll give them access to a sandbox. And that essentially means that they can start to build out their profile on PPE Exchange, but it won't be viewable to any buyer. So once they start to do that, they start to upload FDA verification numbers, documentation, any other 510K, any references, different things like that, straight onto their profile. And so PPE Exchange has partnered with OpenFDA, which is the FDA's database that essentially has every FDA registration number in it. And so we do instant verification of those FDA numbers. So when someone types it in, it automatically checks and says, okay, that is what it says it is. And let's keep moving forward. Once that information is good and we think, their site's ready to go live, we will send them live. And then, like any good marketplace, step number 3, we have an ongoing buyer review and badge system. And so that's to make sure that, once a purchase has gone through, you can write a review about your purchase, or, we can have, better yet, if something negative happened, PPE Exchange can take immediate remediation on whatever needs to be done or remove them from the marketplace immediately. And we also have a badge system. So the badge system is something that you'll see on the site where it says, FDA verified or reference checked, right? Which means that they've provided us 5 reference customers. There's a number of badges that we have, whether it's like, you know, the stars, 5-star reviews, different things like that. And so that's kind of the ongoing way that we're monitoring that as well. And I like to call out that this is an imperfect process. And if you're sitting there saying, you know, JT, this is great, but I can poke holes in this, everyone can. But one of the things that we're doing that no one else is that all of this data is constantly tracked on our blockchain. And what that means is that if someone tries to go back and edit the data, if they try to go back and change their FDA verification number, we're able to see that, and we're able to immediately take action and say, hey, what are you doing? You know, why are you changing this FDA verification number? Why are you changing the description of the product while it's, you know, mid-transaction? A lot of the things that were happening with online deals at the start of COVID, or even offline deals, but not being tracked. And so we're, you know, really happy about the work that our team is doing there. And the other thing is that we're setting the industry standard on PPE verification. I always tell people the story about when I was on a call a few weeks ago with a Florida hospital. It was the largest hospital in Florida, and their chief procurement officer was telling me, hey, JT, I've been verifying these people every day, and it's really been taking up a lot of my time. And I was, you know, surprised. I said, you're spending your time verifying vendors? Like, tell me about it. What are you doing? He's like, well, you know, so-and-so, I was referred to them. They had a friend in China, you know, and they have access to this thing. So, you know, my people need supplies. So I took a risk and it worked out. And now I trust that vendor, but they're charging me 200%, but I'm going with it because I know it's real. And I was just mind blown, because that's the truth of what many hospitals across the country are going through. They're just trying to figure it out. And so PPE Exchange is setting the new bar on what vendor verification really means. And then additionally, having that ongoing process of making sure that their prices stay competitive. So what we're going to do now is talk about how to get started. So Pam's already sent out a lot of information on how to log into our site, which you can just proceed to PPE.Exchange and click become a buyer. You'll enter some basic information about your organization, and then we'll send you an inbox. We'll send an email to your inbox to reset your password. And that's after we just do a quick verification of your organization. And then you'll log back into PPE.Exchange. And we're going to go over the high level steps on what the order flow looks like. So number one is you're just going to select the PPE that you'd like to purchase. And two is once you find it, you're going to place an order. This order is non-binding. And so what I mean by that is that if you click place order, you are not committing funds. It is not you know, a binding purchase order that locks you in. It's simply you saying, if you have the product at this price and you return an acceptable ETA, I will fund this order. And so after you click place order, the supplier will review your request and then accept or reject it. And upon acceptance, set an ETA. This is the step where it becomes binding and you fund the order. So if they provide an ETA that works for you and your team, you click fund order. And so here I like to differentiate just to make everybody clear. We talk about this in two ways: group orders or solo orders. So with group orders, 100% of the funds will be collected and put into escrow via ACH or credit card. And so that's just because it's much easier to collect the funds one time with large groups and not have you know, multiple times that they log in and make payment. And for solo orders, payments can be put in escrow according to the payment terms and release. After that,
Kristen, do you let's see, are you just doing a loan CT?
oh, I think we have
Not a
someone
screening one.
off mute. Let me see if I can.
We're trying to mute everyone's line, but if you all could pay attention to that as well, that'd be great.
Okey-doke. All righty, I think we're good to go. So after that, the supplier will ship the PPE, and then the purchaser, you'll receive and inspect, and then funds are released according to the agreed upon terms up front. And so we're just going to walk you through what the website looks like today. So we're constantly making improvements to PPE Exchange, and if you log on and see anything that's missing or that you'd like, please provide feedback because we like that a lot. But number one, we divide this out between masks, gloves, gowns, and other products. At the top banner here, you'll see we divide between PPE, quotes, suppliers, orders, and then your profile page. So right now what we're looking at is just our N95 on landed. So one of the big things that we differentiate between is landed and production orders. And that's because a lot of the price gouging is happening because people are buying up supplies from overseas, getting it into the US, and then marking it at a premium because there's a fear about, a cross-border shipping at the moment, which is completely valid. But it's allowing this kind of price gouging. And also, timelines. People are saying, I need this PPE in my door on Friday, when the PPE market was never built for that type of order to begin with. So we make sure to differentiate between landed and production orders on our site, so you have an idea of why the prices are looking different. And so you'll see a little bit more of a premium on that landed inventory, but you're able to get smaller quantities. And then you're gonna browse through and take a look at our PPE list. So this is just an example of an N95 from Macrite that we have. You can see it has all of the descriptions, and I pulled this one specifically because it shows a great image of all of the pricing tiers. So it shows the minimum order quantity of, if you wanted 400 base, but then if you bump up to 50,000, it drops down. Then they give a ground shipping estimate per unit added on top. So we have many, many descriptions like this, and you can go in and browse through after this call. But you can see once you browse down, they have some additional images. They have their NIOSH and FDA approvals listed there that you can tap on and view. And once you do decide to click order, you'll be taken to a page that looks like this. So this is where we like to differentiate here between our single and group order. So the single order, as you can see, you just type in your order size. This has a minimum order quantity of 50,000 3-plies. And so, you don't have to put 50K here, any notes, if there was any size differentiation, thing like that. And then your destination of where they're going to ship to. And then you click submit order. For the group order, this is an example that we used for the North Carolina Hospital Association. So with North Carolina, they've done 3 successful group orders. I think they're on their 4th right now with PPE Exchange. And they like to take advantage of it from a group organizer perspective. So when they do it that way, NCHA basically goes in here, and you can do this with your hospitals if you'd like to invite, numerous buyers to your buy. You put in the title of the order, and then let's say you're just the organizer, so you're ordering 0, but healthcare, which is a hospital, wants 10,000, healthcare 1 wants 5,000, but then healthcare 2 wants 35,000. So any one of them weren't able to meet this minimum order quantity, but when it comes to being able to group together, they were able to hit that MOQ. So you'll see here they hit the total order quantity, and then they move forward with their order. So they click submit order. Then a notification goes to our vendor where they have the opportunity to log in and set an ETA. So the ETA they can put, and if it's an acceptable date, they click approve order. And then this is what will go back to you. Once they've accepted the order, you'll be prompted to make payment. So PPE Exchange is currently doing ACH and credit card payment. We do, with larger orders, have some workarounds, such as invoicing and wire transfer, but we tried to mostly stick to this because of the ease of platform use, as well as our vendors and our buyers being protected. So ACH is essentially like a direct deposit. It's how a lot of people, do rent or bill payment is via ACH. And we like to heavily suggest, if you're able to do that, go with that option because they only do the 0.8% fee at a $5 maximum. So as we start to climb in dollar amounts for these products, you're going to see that that $5 maximum is really beneficial. And again, PPE Exchange does not host this payment platform. That's Plaid. Plaid is a Visa-owned company, and they are kind of the industry standard when it comes to instant bank verification. So none of that data is held by PPE Exchange. We don't see that payment, that information. We just interact with it post-payment. So then the second is Stripe, and this is for credit card payment. So the credit cards have a 2.9% processing fee plus 30 cents. That is not collected by PPE Exchange. That is just your credit card online transaction fee. Pretty standard across the board, but as you can see, as you climb in dollar amount, that starts to hurt. So that's why we push people towards ACH. We are using Stripe, which is the absolute leader in online credit card transactions. Billions and billions of dollars through Stripe via credit card. And so we've partnered together with them for this. And again, we do not store any of that data, and all of that data is encrypted at a military grade level on the PPE Exchange side. So there's no way that we could even see that to begin with. And then number 5 is receiving your shipment. So this is a picture of NCHA. They had a situation where they shipped all of their level 2 gowns to one location in North Carolina, and each hospital sent a truck to come pick it up. Don't be scared. That is not the situation that we've picked for Kentucky, and a lot of states do it a lot of different ways depending on what they're interested in taking on. But I just love this picture because 35,000 gowns, all delivered to 42 different hospitals. Really a great success story for PPE Exchange, and highlights our work with NCHA. And before I turn it back over to Pam for some questions, and then we can start talking about the group order, I just wanted to quickly review our RFP page. So our RFP page was the large order one that I was talking about, where you can literally enter in the supplies that you're looking for in the form of an RFP and have bidders respond to it. In these type of situations, we would like to work alongside you to get to understand, like, hey, what are the type of things that we want to write into that? We have an RFP team that you can work directly alongside. But mostly we like to list all of the group orders on here to get a litany of bids in response, so we can form the best prices for these group orders. So as you can see here, we have our Kentucky one and our North Carolina one that was up. This was as of yesterday or maybe 2 days ago. And so North Carolina is doing, quite a bit with the Senior Living Association through a group order. We've had over 65 submissions on behalf of that RFP from various PPE vendors. And then the Kentucky one, we had just over 25 respond in the first 24 hours. So we are very excited about that feature, and I just wanted to make sure to call it out. So Pam, I have the more slides about the group order, but how about I turn it back over to you?
Great. Thanks, JT. Thanks for walking us through how your platform works. And before we discuss that group, I'm going to ask you just about 4 or 5 questions, just to also give people a chance to form their questions, maybe put them in the chat. I know that it's interesting, GPOs have not recovered as predicted. JT, we're hearing that the production of large industrial players like 3M, Honeywell, Make-Rise are all being reserved, in some cases up to 95% of their future production. Can you tell us what you're hearing about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, that's 100% correct. The background on it is that this industry wasn't built to start with the supply chain due to the distributor nature of it, the broker nature of it, to have the type of impact that COVID immediately did. And everybody here, I'm not saying anything new, but the interesting part is that the amount of fraud that popped up right at the start of it, and it was really around Honeywell and 3M, specifically 3M. But 3M, Honeywell, Make-Right, they're all very open about available inventory on their sites. 3M was the first one to start releasing information about how much quantities are being reserved, how much production is actually out there. If any of you on this call are receiving, anything regarding, I have, 1 million 3M 1860s in my warehouse, ready to go, as long as you put money in escrow, just please don't even answer the call or return the email. There are 100 people like that making calls on hospitals each day. There are 100 people like that making calls on PPE Exchange each day. The GPOs really ran into a tough situation because all of the production lines that they were reserved, or typically do reserve, were immediately taken up by other governments, other government agencies, other major direct from hospitals. And so they were really forced out of the picture. And so what I see state to state, right, GPOs change. Some states don't even use GPOs, like Georgia. Everyone dealt with it differently in response. And so the GPOs that we're working with, so we're working with GPOs on the back end. So we're helping GPOs reestablish their relationships with manufacturers abroad because of our manufacturing network. And we're also helping provide them vendors to then distribute out to everyone else. But the common story that I've heard across the board is, GPOs are openly saying, hey, I will not be able to fulfill this, or better yet, yes, I'll accept your order, but I can't fulfill that until January 2021. So that leaves you guys saying, what do I do in the meantime? So that's where PPE Exchange really has been able to step up, is that we've been helping to recover and expand on those supply chains. And then Pam, just the other interesting thing to call out is it's not just those products. The big scary one over the last month has been nitrile gloves. So there's been an absolute explosion in the need for nitrile gloves, and then also a total lockdown on the supply. So there was a glove manufacturer named Top Glove who was producing about, I think it's between 55 and 65% of the total nitrile glove market, that the White House put out an order to essentially put a embargo on Top Glove because of child labor laws. And so that immediately took a market that was under stress and then added, another level of stress on top of it. So anything around nitrile gloves, I would proceed with caution. We're seeing available landed inventory from, anywhere from $13 to $21, depending on your quantity. If anybody's promising you $5, $6, $7, $8 and below, and you're not purchasing millions of boxes, I would be extremely wary. So this kind of industry knowledge PPE Exchange has at every day and every point in time, because we're seeing such a volume of transactions from such a large selection of buyers and vendors. So every day our team is analyzing, okay, what's about to spike, what's not, where are we seeing shortages? And so we're able to kind of curate the marketplace in this way that we're having a supply of what's in need, and also double down and checking the ones that are about to be more demand heavy, right? The ones that are more fraud risk. We start to develop policies on those vendors. And if we need to go and check in and say, hey, those gloves don't look like they should be that price anymore. Is that what you're seeing, Mr. Vendor? And they say, yeah, you're right. I need to go, remove that from the site or update it or whatever it might be. But all good questions. Did that answer it, Pam?
It does. And also, and thanks for, teaching us a little bit about the difference between production versus landed inventory. It's great that your platform differentiates between both. But can you explain what that means to us as buyers?
Absolutely. So I mentioned this in my presentation, but one of the big things that I hear in conversations with customers and hospitals specifically is, I will only buy it if it is in the United States. And that essentially means I will only buy it if it's landed. And it's because that there's been this fear about, shipping overseas. There's always this, there's this big unknown, right, when you're coming from abroad. But that's what was usually happening before COVID. And there are still many supply chains that are imperfect, tact. Sure, you might need to plan 30 extra days, 15 extra days in advance in order to get the production schedules going. But really, to you as the end buyer, is that when you say that statement, I will only buy, on the ground, I will only buy landed, I will only buy what's in the US, you're immediately telling the vendor that you're comfortable paying whatever price. And that's because those products are at a premium. The minute they hit the ground, people are literally at the ports with suitcases full of money. And this is not a joke, suitcases full of money, trying to buy the containers that come in from overseas. And that's part of the reason people say I don't want to deal with that. But really good vendors that have strong production lines are not at risk for those type of situations. That is to the people that just started importing PPE. Those are for the people that weren't doing this before COVID. That is for the people that are still trying to understand. So if you as a hospital are able to think in advance, right, call it 30 days, 60 days out, and you're able to plan effectively, you'll be able to take advantage of much better prices instead of landed inventory. So as a buyer, I would always ask your broker, if you don't purchase through PPE Exchange, I really hope you do. But I would always ask them, is this landed or is this a production order? And if they don't have a good answer for that, that's an immediate sign that you should be wary.
Good. So at the onset, I mentioned that there are several state hospital associations promoting your digital marketplace solution with their members. And you mentioned that you are working with 12, you're talking with 20 more. You mentioned North Carolina. I know of a couple others when we were doing the vetting. Can you share which ones are actually in the process of placing orders using your online marketplace?
Yeah, absolutely. So divide that into two answers. First being, once we announce the public partnership, like we did with Kentucky, every member within the state has access to the platform. So even if there isn't a group order organized, we see that, you know, all 12 states that we've been working with and the ones that we haven't even started, you know, officially working with yet are logging on to PPE Exchange to make orders. And so we've seen buys across all 12 of those states. We're working with North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Arkansas, New Mexico, Indiana, Massachusetts, Montana, Kentucky, and I'm going to miss someone. I think that might have, yeah, I think I might have rounded them out.
Good. Okay, and so in the beginning, I also mentioned that KHA surveyed our members on their PPE needs. We learned that many hospitals and systems are still struggling to source PPE and disinfecting supplies, all things necessary to maintain operations. In addition, our KHA president, Nancy Galvani, she conducted an informal PPE survey for Dr. Stack. We received additional feedback on shortages, markups, scarcity of certain items. Some of these included gowns, wipes, medium gloves, adult blood pressure cups, disposable stethoscopes. So as a result of all that KHA survey, and thank you for participating, we have plans to create a group order using PPE Exchange for items that have high demand and large quantities. We've identified what those needs are, and at the moment, they're N95s and level 2 isolation gowns. So with that, JT, I know you created 2 options for Kentucky for a group buy. The great news is that the shipping is included. PPE will ship directly to each provider that participates. Can you take a few minutes and talk us about what these group order opportunities are?
Yes, I can. And that was a great explanation. So yeah, the demand generation survey that went out a few weeks ago to all the Kentucky members, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago now, great response rate. I think over 40 hospitals and other members responded with what their needs were. Immediately saw the level 2 ISO gowns and the N95s jump right to the top. So when we released this RFP, we were really excited because what we do is we're looking for vendors that will A, maximize price, but B, be able to handle logistics to, you know, potentially 30 to 50 individual end locations. And so what we've done is down selected on 2 vendors. The first one is for the N95 NIOSH approved face masks and BYD Care. So BYD Care is really been the dominant force in the N95 market since COVID began. We announced our public partnership with them a week ago, where we get, you know, discounted prices directly on BYD product if you're purchasing through PPE Exchange, which is fantastic. And so this is for your group order. We were able to secure a price at I think it was $330 or $335 plus the shipping cost to each location, coming at $350 a mask, including shipping to the 30 plus locations. And so all of this information on this mask, once we send out the link post this call, you'll be able to view all of the information, the cut sheet, any additional things that you're looking for. And we were really happy with that price. Typically N95s on our site are ranging, depending on brand, right? If you have any of the, you know, Make Right or, you know, similar items like that, we're seeing, you know, high 4, closer to $5, depending on order quantity. But based on the response rate, we saw, you know, hopefully Kentucky does between 30 and 60,000 N95s, which was able to get us this lower price. And so what will happen is, because you guys now have group ordering power, it'll lock in this price the more people within the state of Kentucky that are able to participate. So Pam's going to open it up to not only everybody on this call and all the members, but as well open it up to others in the state of Kentucky. And so eventually we're hoping to cross that 30K line so we can secure this pricing. And we're really excited about that.
Very good. And that's probably a good time to mention that we do have other Kentucky associations and providers on this call. They include representatives from nursing homes, clinics, health centers around the state. So we know that your platform can help even schools, universities, retail outlets, home health, hospice agencies, independent practitioners. So I say that to say, JT, when we begin this group buy, which we're going to schedule to have it closed next Friday, September 18th, we know that PPE demand is there now, so we don't want to sit on this. Anyone on this phone call would be able to share this opportunity with others that they know in their community who can also benefit. So to wrap up, this, prepared part of this discussion, and before we take questions, everyone on this meeting invitation, they will receive a copy of the presentation. They can feel free to share that. They're also going to have links and instructions on how to do the group buy for the N95, as well as the level 2 ISO gowns. And so with that, let's go ahead, open up the line. We'll ask Ashley to unmute your line. And we can also check the chat room to see what questions that we might have. And I'll go ahead. Anyone out there have a question for JT? Okay, I'm going to check the chat room.
I have one quick question.
Great.
Yeah, my name is Mitch Harris. I'm with St. Elizabeth Healthcare. One of the challenges that St. Elizabeth has had is they've been burned a few times, and they would like to have samples before they do large orders. Are there still opportunities on some of these orders to obtain samples, or we kind of have to depend on cut sheets and that type of thing?
That's a great question. So I would say, Mitch, that it really comes down to the order quantity. All of our vendors are willing to provide samples. Usually with the group orders, we send the samples directly to Kentucky or whoever the group organizer is to have one hospital or someone from their group verify the product instead of each individual hospital checking off on it. But in let's say you wanted to release or purchase a couple thousand boxes of gloves or anything like that, our vendors are usually more than willing to send samples to you directly.
Great, thank you.
Of course.
Sir, I can't tell if you're only on the phone, but I was sent unsolicited, you can't see it because of my green screen, a box of gloves from one of the vendors as well. We have these just in the office.
Thanks.
Now, while we're waiting for any other questions, JT, do you see that PPE Exchange, this supply chain answer, do you see this as only for the current pandemic, or do you think this platform is something that you're going to maintain even after COVID is behind us?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we certainly have the investment in this to be a long-term business. We understand that the PPE market before COVID was a multi-billion-dollar industry. And we see us being able to fulfill and expand towards whatever hospitals do purchase. So you'll see on our site, we do have some that are already outside the scope of traditional PPE, whether it's thermometers or test kits or what else do we have? We have some purifiers, sanitizers, disinfectants, surface wipes, different things like that. So there's no reason that we can't continue to expand the scope of our product set as the days go on. There is such a high demand and need that all of our focus is on PPE. But we're already talking to states about, hey, what does a year from now look like when GPOs reestablish? And what we're seeing is that we are a long-term solution. People like to use our product. People like the fact that they can go on and browse and compare, and there's not this veil of uncertainty of we can get you better prices. It's I can go see if I'm getting better prices. And so we're already working on, hey, how do we, what's the training like for procurement officers to consistently purchase on PPE Exchange? And also some states are doing an organized rolling group order. So like once a month, they're going to say, yeah, okay, and we're going to buy N95s today. And then 30 days from now, we're going to start our second one. And then 30 days from that, we're going to start our third one. So they're constantly getting the group purchasing power. And it takes very little organization once everybody gets behind it. So yeah, PPE Exchange does see this as a long-term solution.
JT, would it be possible if our members were interested in samples, as someone expressed, if they didn't want to wait on a sample to come in, could you put them in touch with colleagues from another state who have ordered from that vendor or that product so they could talk one-on-one to about the quality of the product they're interested in?
Yeah, absolutely. That's an option. There is like a bit of non-exposure laws, right, when it comes to this sort of thing, when it comes to hospitals. But it's certainly something that we facilitated in the past once if the previous buyer is open to it. So it's always worth the ask.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Any other questions for JT? Well, JT did a great job of also sharing this opportunity with the KHA board, the KHA Solutions Group board. So many of your hospital CEOs who serve on either of those boards have heard about this. We're excited to present this as an opportunity to help our members maintain the PPE that they need to have just to maintain operations. So we are excited to be, promoting this as a solution. So with that, be looking for an email from me. We'll probably also have this link and information in the KHA COVID update today, if not tomorrow, and you'll receive that. Again, the deadline to participate in these 2 group buys will be next Friday, September 18th, probably end of day. So if you need one or the other, and again, promote this with other people in your community who are in the same shape that we are. So with that concludes our presentation, and we will give you 9 minutes back of your day. So thanks again.
Thank you so much. And I also put a couple links in the chat if anybody wants to check them out right now, and appreciate everybody's time.
Thank you, JT. We'll leave those up for a minute.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Ashley, thank you for your help as always.
You're welcome. Thank you, everyone. I will now stop the recording. It will be available in our newsletter today.
Thank you.